He will not play. He still hadn't done anything yet at practice. You guys are at the proper distance away from it. I won't give you the crud. I'm going to try to coach today from this same distance. He has not done anything 5-on-5, half court, and hadn't done anything except shoot.
Roy, after the game Tuesday, you made mention of you coaching the guys to do something, and then in the games, that not happening. You've mentioned that before.
Yeah.
Can you explain that a little bit more in terms of what's going on there?
Well, it's just, I'm so daggum gun shy about least gifted. It's the stupidest freaking thing in history. I'm not blaming the kids. The way I said it was I haven't been able to get them to do the things that we ask them to do, and they do sometimes in practice. Now, if anybody wants to take exception to that, I'm close to the line of telling everybody go take a flying leap, so I'm okay. But I'll give you an example. 79 practices. We have fast break drill number 3. It's everybody, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody comes down the middle of the court, comes to a stop, makes a bounce pass. Coach Frederick is standing there. And the reason we do it is to teach you not to charge. Come to a stop at the free throw line. And not picking on anybody. But Ramondo ran over the guy. In 79 practices, we've done it every single day. So that's an example right there. And again, that's not picking on Armando. You just asked about it. But so I guess I've got to do it twice in every practice. But I haven't been able to get them to take the things directly related to basketball, what we do in practice, and do successfully. Coach Frederick hadn't gotten a bloody nose yet this year. Nobody's kneed him in the groin. Nobody's busted his lip. Everybody's come to a stop. And so it is just something very simple like that. We work on 3-on-2 transition, 4-on-3, 5-on-4, and we get picked up better in practice than we do in the games. And Coach Smith used to call it game slippage, but we've had more instances of that with this team. But if you go back and look at it, how would you describe this team compared to most of our teams, with the exception of 2006? I guess I'd have to think hard, but maybe the most inexperienced team I've ever coached. But that's what I'm talking about, something similar to that, like that. Now, if somebody picks up on something like that and say, I'm blaming the kids, and you will be witness to one thing, the last freaking press conference I ever have, because that's not what I'm saying.
Not to get into
Is that pretty fair? Jesus Christ.
Not to get into the psychology aspect of it, but you mentioned the inexperience. You have a ton of injuries. You have guys in and out. I'm sure confidence can be tested with the way things have gone.
Yeah.
Does all that kind of factor in?
Yeah, I think so. And then the competitiveness. What drove, we won a championship in 05, 09, and 17. And the team that I enjoyed coaching the most may have been 06, because David Noel was on break, so he was upstairs this morning. And he was our leading returning scorer, I think, at like 3.9. You can look it up. I don't have to go by what I say. But Tyler Hansbrough himself brought such a level of competitiveness in every possession, every loose ball, every drill, that people fed off of that. David Noel, and I still say this, and I've said it consistently since 2006, and it never changed, that I said maybe he's the best leader that I've ever had on any one of my teams. That he just said, come on, guys, let's do what we're told to do, and let's do it, and let's play hard, and everything's going to be all right. He was just off the charts, so good. Marcus Page was a great, great leader, but Joel Berry was a great leader by example. But so you can use all those things: confidence, experience, lack of injuries or preponderance of injuries. And I think that team, we changed the lineup once during the year, and I just made a change myself, because I wanted to get Wes Miller in there to get a little more outside shooting, and took out, I think it was Marcus Ginyard, First game we started 3 freshmen, Bobby, Tyler, and Marcus, with David Noel and Rayshawn Terry. So it was a guy that came here on a football scholarship, and David Noel, a guy who was second team All-State, and Rayshawn Terry. and 3 freshmen, but they competed their buns off every night at a high level. But I think so. You can add all those teams, but I mean, all those things. But I did. That was a fun team to coach because it was, they were looking at you with their eyes wide open and like a little dog wanting somebody to teach me something kind of thing. And that was really a fun team, which probably on par, maybe even less experience because at least we have Garrison that started, whereas David, I don't think David ever started a game. But it's a combination of things. If that old saying, if it was just one thing, I think between me and Coach Robinson and Hubert and Brad and everybody, we would have figured it out if it was just one thing. But the kids want it. I want them to want it desperately, but they do want it. And if people are going to make it out that I'm blaming the kids, they're idiots.
Coach, digging into the psychology of it.
Remember, I told you guys I should have majored in psychology too.
How much more difficult does it get for these kids to prepare as the losing continues? And how challenged are you to maybe change the way you communicate to them a little bit?
Yeah, I think it is something that we think as staff about every single day. And I'm just old school with go to work and do the job, go to work and do the job, try to get better. And that's what we've talked about for the last month is let's try to get better today. And I'm talking about in practice. We're going to try to get better this afternoon in practice. And that's the way I've chosen to do it. And, like I say, we don't tell you guys everything. First year at Kansas, we had a big losing streak because we got down to 8 scholarship players at one time. And we brought them in and watched a movie on Friday night, watched Rocky III and Hoosiers, and it didn't work. But we tried everything. So this year I brought them in. We watched a movie on Friday night and a couple of weeks ago, and it didn't work either. But, you try all kinds of different things. But because the kids, they do want to. I even said something the other night in a huddle that, Walker just didn't hit Garrison quite right overhead when he had a layup. And then Cole threw it away when Justin broke wide open out of the basket. And then Leakey got stripped on the layup. And then I said, boy, guys, just think how much fun this game would be if Cole's 3 had gone in. Didn't even say anything about those other previous plays because if his 3 had gone in, it would have given us a 9-point lead. We would only been down 9, and then we got the ball back and still down 12, but it would have been down 9 to have the ball. And I said something about how much fun this would be. And I looked at Cole, but I know you didn't miss it I've never had a player intentionally miss a shot. But it's just that fine line that you can get if you can just get over the hump a little bit. There's no telling how much more confidence you have in that you can come back. And, I've tried everything so far that I know of. That doesn't mean I'm going to try to figure out something else, too.
Is there an update on Garrison Brooks's eye?
He practiced yesterday. We didn't hold him out of anything. Said the lip feels fine. There's no pain in his eye, and he can see better. It doesn't mean he can. I go like this, and he does say 3 instead of 5, but that's as good as I've gotten him so far. But so it's better, yeah. Pardon?
Is he still on wear the goggles, probably?
I hope so. You think, guys, he's had the same injury in the same eye 3 times, and so just protection. I think Doug wants him to. I want him to, and so far he hadn't said he didn't want to. But you never can tell what kid's going to do. Tyler Hansrow wore the goggles, and all of a sudden, first half of the Michigan State game, threw him at the bench. I think he was trying to hit me. So it's got to be what they're comfortable with, too.
What just seemed like watching Garrison the other night after almost every play. He was taking them on and off, putting them back to the bench, putting them back on.
Yeah, it was frustrating for him because, if you look at him, he's been a very confident player scoring around the basket. And in the first part of that game, he looked very unconfident. He didn't look very secure, not very he was bothered by the goggles. I think everybody could see that. So, and I'm hopeful that as we made him keep him on in practice all day yesterday, too.
Coach, I know you're not on social media yourself, but there seems to be an uptick in the amount of cyberbullying, hate comments with your players on social media. Brandon Robinson talked about it in Carolina Insider Pod. In conversations I've had with Andrew, he said he had to delete his social media, it got so bad. Has this been addressed to you, and kind of how do you deal with this with the nature of the season? It
hasn't been addressed. This is the first that I've heard about it. Is that something similar to what Tommy Izzo?
Yeah,
is that? Yeah, I mean, it's just you imagine what I would be reading if I were to look my own stuff up now. So I don't look at it. I mean, what's that?
They would have fired you a bunch of times.
Oh yeah, and that's what it is, and just got to live with it. But several years ago, we stopped taking calls on my radio show, and the reason we stopped taking calls is because I'd get fired up. And then I said one day, I said, guys, we don't even know if these are real Carolina fans. This may be Duke or State, somebody else's fans just trying to get me fired up or something like that. So we stopped taking calls. And it's the way I look at that, it might be North Carolina fans, and they have the right. They might be saying something bad about me, but I don't read it. But it also could be somebody else saying some negative things, just trying to bait our players or whatever. But it's today's world, The day that Bubba Cunningham or the chancellor walk in and tell me they're not pleased with the job I'm doing or something, I'll worry. But if you think I worry about what some guy or girl, whatever, puts on Twitter, twat, whatever it is, I'm not going there, guys. God Almighty. I understand your question, son. I'm trying to give you a big picture, okay? I do not know anything about it. If I talk to them about it, I'm going to just tell them to leave it alone. I mean, you may think I'm a great coach. You may think I suck. It's not going to make any difference the way I work on it in practice today, so that's what I would tell them. The funniest thing I've ever heard in my life, I'm driving through Georgia on a recruiting trip, and Hugh Durham's radio show was on. And Hugh was the coach at Georgia. And the guy was complaining about his coaching, and he asked him, he said, what do you do? Are you a plumber? That every time you get down to do your job, you show the crack of your rear end? And I'm thinking, God Almighty, I almost wrecked, so it's, you can't get too upset. I mean, I don't know who they are, but our players, since you said it, I'll ask Eric and our guys that monitor the stuff. But I did see Tommy's comments, and Tommy's right. I mean, they have the right to say things, but come on. Everybody criticizes, I'll use Garrison. Everybody criticizes Garrison. Find somebody that's as good a basketball player as he is at criticizing. If Michael Jordan criticizes, maybe I'll say something. But seriously, so if what I'm hearing from you is that our players are being criticized, so am I. And you got to go on. It's today's world. I'll tell them to cut the stuff off, quit looking at it, quit being involved. And you know what? I'm serious. I have never read one thing. I even have my phone with me. Most of the time I leave in the car during the day. But if I'm going to get upset over what somebody says about me, that's not going to be me. I'm going to work every day, working as hard as I possibly can. Nobody will ever say that Roy Williams didn't give them everything he had. And so, it's if you're thinking that I should do something, I thought I left Tommy a message and just told him I enjoyed his press conference kind of thing. But I think they were specifically pointing at one player the way I understand it. Do you guys know? Yeah. So does that answer your question or not?
Yeah, I was more just talking kind of like on the mental health side of things. Just if you ever see that kind of weigh on somebody.
I can guarantee you something else. I'm not going to let somebody think I'm going wacko just because what I read, what somebody's saying on some Twitter twat, whatever it is, that kind of thing. But we will talk to them, and we do already. We monitor it already. It's not nuclear science.
Roy, you talked about the players wanting it so desperately. Is there a danger?
Well, I said I want it desperately. Yeah.
Is there a danger of them wanting it so desperately they try too hard, do things that are not part of their game?
Yeah, they think about result instead of playing the game. I guarantee you some of our players that went to the free throw line at the end of the Duke game were worried about result. You can't shoot the ball worrying about result. You got to shoot the ball thinking about technique. I've used it 100 times. Tiger Woods doesn't go take it back and, God, I got to knock this one 3 feet from the hole for 190 yards, God Almighty. You got to think of technique. But I really do believe that not just this team, every team I think they start thinking sometimes, and it's a way you make sure you got to handle stress, is not think of result, just think of technique. I think that it's my big message to free throw shooters all the time, because it's you have time there. You don't have time when you jump shot. You'll still have some negative thoughts, but free throw shooting, you start to have negative thoughts because you think about the result. And so I tell them, all right, just think of one checkpoint. All right, follow through. So when you shoot a free throw, just make sure you follow through. Oh, it went in, or oh, it missed. But think in that terms as opposed to result. When you start becoming result processing while you're doing something, I think it really is difficult for you. And that's a little bit about what I think you're talking about there, desperately wanting it so much because they're thinking about result instead of playing.
Going back to the psychology thing, Justin said after
I told you I didn't major in psychology. You guys are asking me all the psychological questions. I said I didn't major.
collectively, we
Yeah. With this group in here, you guys are like me. We're in bad shape.
Justin said after the Duke game that, when he was asked about the free throw issues, that when it's harder to make a free throw when the guy that shot him before you missed.
Yeah.
How much are you having to coach that psychology right now?
I think we're trying to coach every possession, every pass, every dribble more than I ever have in my entire life. But I'm not going to sit back and say, well, let's just let it ride, that kind of thing. But I think, it's never bothered me. I'm serious. At one time, I never thought I was the best shooter. But there was one time in my life I thought I could putt better than most guys on the tour. And that guys could miss 21 in a row. And that didn't bother me. I'd make an next one, made no difference. And Dana Quigley one time got in my golf bag and took my putter and said no basketball coach should be able to putt like he does. And, it didn't bother me. I still will make a sucker more than he was. And but yes, I think that you start thinking about, well, the last guy did this or that or whatever. And that's what's so special about B-Rob over at State. I mean, because Christian missed 2, Garrison missed 4, and then B-Rob made 5 in a row.
With Virginia, offensive efficiency the defense is doing what it normally does, but the offensive efficiency is significantly down from last year. Obviously, a lot of talent went out the door. How different of an offensive team are they, and what do you think they do best with this particular group?
Well, I think they do the best. Tony still coaches the heck out of them on the defensive end of the floor. That's what they hang their hat on. And so they have that security blanket of how well they play defensively. They still run in similar offense. They do a few things differently, but they don't have a guy that'll jump up from a corner, a dead corner behind the backboard like Kyle Guy and make it, or they don't have a guy that go up there and got to make, talking about pressure, stress. Always think about having to make 3 free throws to get to the national championship. I mean, come on. And but Jerome and Guile and DeAndre, those guys just were so confident that they carried them through some tough times. I mean, they had a chance to lose maybe the last 2 or maybe the last 3 or maybe the last 4 they played last year, but they were confident enough to get it done. So they don't have that confidence except for, is it Diakite or Diakite? Okay. I just call him big fella. And he knows that too. But Diakite making that big jump shot last year, it's given him a great deal of confidence that he can do some things. So you have him, and you have Clark, who made a big-time play in I think that was the semifinals last year, because a lot of guys would have seen the clock and would try to throw it from 60 feet, and he tried to get one more pass in and get a 10-footer. So I think that really helps them. Huff played some for them last year too, but it is, I mean, with that Jerome and Kyle and DeAndre, they're not as efficient individually offensively. But I just looked when I came in here, they're shooting 41%. Well, we're shooting 40. We're both shooting 40, 41. But our problem is they're giving up 36 and we're giving up 41.4. So they're still hanging their hat on the defensive end of the floor. And they made some against us up there. And I heard Chris Mack say the other day, what's this about not being able to shoot it so well? And young kid for them, for Virginia, somebody's pronounced his. Okay, Thomas made, what was it, 6 threes or 7 threes against, and I remember Chris saying, yeah, I thought they couldn't shoot, you know, and then Statman made some, Casey made some against us up there. Braxton's been around a long time and very experienced, so we don't take anybody lightly, especially somebody who's already beaten us, you know, so we understand that part of it.
Coach,
Couple more,
you mentioned
please.
Walker Miller earlier.
Pardon?
You mentioned Walker Miller
Uh-huh.
earlier, and he's playing, I guess, ahead of Brandon Hoffman. What's the reason there for going with Walker?
Brandon couldn't play the other night. His knee was bothering him. He wasn't going to play. If I had to at the end, I would have played 4 people. And so that's the reason that Walker got all that time. But Walker's been doing some better things in practice, and perhaps, and the reason I really do say it, and I think you'll understand, perhaps he has moved in front of Huff. It just depends on what I think I need at that specific moment. If I want a guy who's probably going to block a shot, or I want a guy who's going to be sound fundamentally on the defensive end of the floor and maybe take a charge. So it depends. But Huff was not available against Wake Forest.
Roy, kind of using Virginia, the first meeting, as the barometer, in what ways do you feel like this team has gotten better since then? In what ways do you feel like
Well, last night, when I was watching the first half last night, I thought, oh my gosh, we were so bad, and they weren't very good either in the first half, but they made more than we did. And in the second half, we got worse, and they got a little better. Taking care of the basketball and shooting a decent percentage against Virginia is always difficult. Shooting good percentage because they're going to challenge every shot, and they're going to try to take away your second shot opportunities. And they don't get out in the lanes, and they don't press full court, but they're after you enough that you turn the ball over against them. I think that we can shoot the ball, needless to say, better than we did up there, and hopefully we'll rebound the ball better. We still make some silly turnovers. I think even in the Duke game, what we have, 16 or 18, something like that against Duke. I mean, it's a high possession game, and it went to overtime, so it was 45 minutes. But we've got to cut back everything. And, you know, I think sometimes in practice I say, all right, we're getting it now, and we're getting a little better in every phase, but we'll have to play the game tomorrow to see.
Coach, what's the motivation for your team these last few weeks?
What's
the motivation for your team these last few weeks?
I hope it's to play better basketball. I mean, you know, I haven't seen any signs of them giving up. And if they're going to, just don't even come to practice. Just, you still got your scholarship. But if you're not going to come out there and do the best you can, don't even come. And I am. It's the motivation to me is to get better. And then who knows what might happen at the end. You know, you just got to trying to keep getting better every single day. And I guess, you know, I mean, everybody's talking about the tournament. I'm just trying to get better every single day. I mean, it would be hard for us to make the tournament, I guess, as an at-large team, but we're trying to get better every single day is what we're trying to do.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Coach.
Feel better.